Oh, welcome back again. We resume the seminar, the panel 4, utilization by CoastGuard. Next, please. I am very honored to introduce two distinguished speakers. Next, please. The first panelist and moderator of this panel is Rear Admiral Awai Tsuguo from the Japan Coast Guard. His presentation is strategic use of unmanned technologies in the Coast Guard services. He will speak about unmanned technologies challenges in Coast Guard services, internally and externally. Next, please. The second panelist is Mr. Shanaka Jayansekara. Title is Utilization of Autonomous Surface Vessels by Coast Guard Agencies. He will speak about MDA and USV as support to the Philippine Coast Guard from UNODC. So, Rear Admiral, floor is yours.
Thank you very much for kind introduction. I was here last year and moderated one of the 4 panel discussions. And I would really thank once again to James and the Nippon Foundation for providing me with a similar opportunity as last year. Thank you very much. Just supplement to my introduction as was done by Captain Kawai. I worked for the Coast Guard for over 42 years. And I retired the Coast Guard 2 years ago, formally, but I was given the active duty assignment on the next day of retirement. It's a very, very extraordinary treatment, but now I'll be making a reference to the human resource shortage in the Coast Guard. But that refers to my situation, that there are many, many old timers in the front line of the Coast Guard to supplement the human resource shortage. That's why we are very serious about introducing the autonomous technologies in the Coast Guard services. So I think there are 2 different aspects surrounding the use of autonomous technologies. One is how the Coast Guard should cope with the external environment where mass is everywhere. So there are many experts who have delivered excellent presentations regarding how the Coast Guard should be to cope with the autonomous environment. But at the same time, there is one other aspect that Coast Guard should also improve its service efficiency by using the autonomous technologies. So there are 2 aspects in that. One is that we need to improve the service efficiency. The other one is to cope with the human resource shortage issues. Especially, this is very significant in Japan. Today happens to be my 62nd birthday. Thank you very much. Well, 62 years ago, when I was born, the number of newborn babies of that year was more than, in Japan, was more than 1,500,000. But the figure of last year is well below half of it, something around the 700,000. It's a very, very small figure. So that is why we are recruiting 600 new service members in the Coast Guard every year. It is highly unlikely that we are able to continue that. So that is why we are very keen about making use of autonomous technologies for our internal reason. So if I move on to my presentation. As I said, there are 3 aspects. The third one is how to cope with the external environment where the mass is employed by the industry. But I'm going to focus on the 2 other things, which is the service improvement and one other thing to cope with the human resource shortage issues, with both of which are rather internal things. the panel discussion 4 will focus on the use of autonomous technologies in the Coast Guard services. Many discussions have taken place and excellent observations made surrounding mass in the previous panel discussions. But again, I feel the reality is ahead of us in some areas, which necessitates the Coast Guards to catch up with the realities. We are feeling the pressure to improve services and operations, and at the same time to compensate for the human resource shortage by strategic use of autonomous technologies, not only to cope with external autonomous environment, but to improve autonomous capabilities internally is also important. So these are my major concerns, which I believe will be shared by other Coast Guards. So this is shown in the study in front of you. The Coast Guard covers many different emissions, all of which are very labor intensive. So I don't need to say what services we cover, but again, they are law enforcement, search and rescue, maritime traffic safety, protection of marine environment, and many other things. Disaster responses, they are very labor intensive works. So this is in order to carry out these missions, our Coast Guard has some 14,500 service members. But the rapidly declining birth rate is posing threat to the securing of personnel in the Coast Guard. So there is a compelling need for securing human resources and also substitute the labor intensiveness by autonomous technologies. So these are the examples that the Japan Coast Guard is employing to cope with the modern service environment that are on the top left. This is AOV, Autonomous Ocean Research Vehicle, which is used for hydrographic services. The other one on the right is the Smart Buoy, which is also another type of autonomous technology. The buoys can be monitored remotely with a minimal human intervention for maintenance. And one on the bottom left is the large size UAV for maritime surveillance. This is a brand new technology, but this is also a very game-changing technology to allow us to improve our surveillance capability very significantly. So there is something in common in between the maritime and aeronautical communities when we talk about the autonomous technologies. And also in the underwater domain, we are also employing the, what you call this, AUV or UUV, or underwater surveillance for mainly for oceanographic purposes. So this is one other thing. So these are the examples we are in the process or have already employed to improve our service efficiencies. You may recall that there was a big earthquake disaster on the New Year's Day this year in Japan. So we were able to deploy the multiple UAVs for disaster surveillance purposes. We started operating the UAV by one platform, but now we have three. The one of the three is operated in cooperation with the Maritime Defense Force. So this is a very, very game-changing for technology. And in the next fiscal year, we are going to have 5 to increase the unmanned capability, but that will necessitate us to reduce the manned capability. It's a kind of, say, fleet optimization. But normally, one manned MPA, maritime patrol aircraft, flies from 600 to 700 hours per year on the average. But this UAV can fly well over 1,200 hours every year, per year. And it can stay in the air over 24 hours continuously without human intervention. The one manned MPA requires 5 to 6 crew members on board, but UAV can be operated only 2 crew on the ground. So they do not need to, we don't need to pay the flight hour pay for the crew because they are always on the ground. So this is another, the cost cutting, the advantage. And the way we operate the UAV is very unique. It's COCO, COCO, company owned and company operated. We are not yet able to operate the UAV on our own with our own staff members. So we outsource the operation of the UAV to the American company. Unfortunately, it's not the Japanese company. So we depend upon the American, the company to operate and maintain the platforms, but maybe under the supervision of the Coast Guard officers. But for the future, we'll be able to conclude the operations in the Coast Guard. Maybe that is our objective. The information gathering capability is very outstanding. So we have the capability to continuously monitor the flight and the information gathering in the air from the ground. But this is also a very unique capability. So for the MPA, the non-MPA, which they just fly over and we never know what they are seeing until they come back to the base. But for the UAV, we have the broadband connection all the time, so we can monitor what is happening on the maritime domain on the real-time basis. This is a very unique capability. So it has several multiple different types of surveillance sensors. It has radar, it has the infrared sensor, it has optical sensor, and it has the SAR radar, synthetic aperture radar. Its surveillance capability is very, very outstanding. So these are the features that can be provided by the UAV. The long endurance, it can fly longer than 24 hours per sortie, and the noise is very low, and speed is also very slow, which is an advantage for maritime surveillance. And as I said, the high performance sensor provides us with the high level situation awareness, and the human risk is very low. The human resource efficiency, as I said, it requires only 2 ground personnel to operate the UAV. So as I said, it's operated by American experts. They are mostly back from Afghanistan, mainly using the other type of UAV, but they are very happy to be able to work in the comfortable environment of the Coast Guard, not in the desert, the barracks, but they can sit in a place like this with a cup of coffee on the one hand and the control stick on the other, and they can go home every night. So, and enjoy a nice meal. So American operators are very happy to be flying the UAV for the Coast Guard. And operational cost is also low, and fuel consumption is very low, and it's environmentally friendly. And it is connected with the ground control center on the real-time basis, which of course will help us for the making the real-time info sharing and decision-making capability. So these are the photos where we are operating the UAVs. So one on the top is control center, collocated in the Navy airfield. The reason why we're having the cooperation with the Navy is that Coast Guard air stations are all located in commercial airports. And the operation of UAV is not fully allowed in the commercial airports. So we need to use the Navy airfield to be able to fly UAV of this type on a regular basis. So we are in a very close cooperation, and they are working together, and we share the intelligence gathered from the UAV. So the possible advantage of autonomous technologies, we can harmonize the service level. So we don't need a very, very long experience of maritime surveillance. For whoever operates the UAV, so we can gain the same level of intelligence capability. In the reduction in the risk of lives, we have lost 5 service members by the air crash on the first day or second day of the new year. That was tragedy. But of course, there is no one on board the UAV, so there is no risk for the human lives. and operating cost. The training cost is also very low. So normally we need to have years to train the experienced pilot, if not the minimum level. But the training for the UAV operation requires only a few months. So as I said earlier, so we recruit more than 600 new service members to the Coast Guard training institutions every year. But it is unlikely that we are able to continue this. So not only in the air domain, but for the surface domain and underwater domain. So there is a mandate for the Coast Guard to improve the human resource efficiency. This is one other thing. So this is the future Coast Guard that I have in mind. So there will be two layers. One below is the layer, the basic layer where we can improve by means of autonomous technologies. The ISR, oceanography, infofusion, vessel monitoring, target acquisition. So these are the areas that can be improved by means of autonomous technologies. Based upon this, there are upper layer which still needs the human intervention. The law enforcement, underwater rescue, helicopter operations, firefighting, disaster responses. So these are the areas where we still need human intervention. So they are very labor intensive also. So based upon the first layer, so we need to carry out the physical work based upon the first layer. So this is second layer. So this is the future Coast Guard we have in mind. So for the challenges in implementing such styles for the future, so we need to change the mindset to be able to cope with the new environment where autonomous technology is employed in the Coast Guard. The data-centric service policy, because for the future Coast Guard, we need to have the awareness to use the data for all different types of Coast Guard missions. And in order to make it possible, we need to have the powerful IT infrastructure to process a huge amount of data and high-level data analytics. These are the new areas that we need to have for the future Coast Guard personnel. And redundant, uninterrupted broadband connectivity, not only for the UAV, but we can draw the analogy from this to the mass. Because I can't imagine how much satellite channels of what broad the bandwidth is required for the future autonomous world, because we have only 3-4 platforms in the air. But if there are many more, but also in the surface, or let's say more than 1,000 ocean-going mass in the world, how much the channel is required for the environment. So that is a challenge. So we need to shift the knowledge and skill from conventional to innovative, which encompasses the AI, machine learning, data science, etc., for creating intelligence. So in short, this requires the future Coast Guard personnel to shift the mindset for autonomous business style. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. And let me first thank the Japan Maritime Safety Association, GEMS, and Nippon Foundation for inviting me and inviting UNODC and the opportunity given to us to present at this event. The focus of my presentation relates to unmanned technologies to enhance MDA collection, Maritime Domain Awareness collection. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and the Global Maritime Program, to which I am attached to, I lead the team in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And our role is to strengthen maritime law enforcement capabilities among maritime law enforcement agencies in the region. We support Coast Guard agencies, maritime police units, customs, fleets, fisheries agencies in developing their capacity and capability to counter illicit activity at sea. In doing so, we have moved into encouraging the use of new technologies. And this story begins with the installation of what is referred to as a RF detection sensor in the Philippines. I'm not too sure how many of you are quite aware of MDA or Maritime Domain Awareness. I will go through some details on Maritime Domain Awareness. Maritime Domain Awareness relates to the collection of information from maritime sources to have a clear maritime surface picture. There are two different types of technologies that are used for MDA. One is called cooperative technologies. That is where the vessel itself emits through its transponder its location. So it's cooperating in terms of providing its location, and non-cooperative technologies where the vessel is not sharing its location, but you have to use other sources of sensors to detect where that vessel is. One of the game changers in terms of MDA is RF detection technology, radio frequency detection technology. And currently, RF detection technology is being used through the use of satellites. Satellites that have overpass across a region would pick up RF signals, and then if there is some form of life out at sea emitting a RF signal, that will be recorded. However, this imagery at the moment is very expensive, and you have to wait for an overpass of these satellites to get an image of the RF picture in the region. So in supporting the Philippines Coast Guard to have a 24/7 capability of RF sensors, UNODC supported the Philippines Coast Guard to install a terrestrial-based RF sensor on the coastline in the Sulu Sea region, in the Mindanao, in the Tawi-Tawi region of Mindanao. So that's where the story begins. So there is a RF sensor that is installed. It has a bearing line wherever there is a radio emission, a bearing line is detected. We needed to install a second bearing line, a second RF sensor, so that there can be a fix between two bearing lines. But before we decided to install another terrestrial-based RF sensor, we were looking at an innovative approach of looking at an autonomous vessel that can carry a RF sensor, providing the second bearing line. So that's where the story begins. And then I will end with what we're doing in terms of implementing that initiative. Next slide, please. I'll speak about what is MDA. Yeah. So the scope of the presentation, I'll introduce what MDA is. I'll look at unmanned technologies enhancing MDA collection, then the integration of real-world applications, challenges and ethical considerations, and then move on to the unmanned surface vessel that we plan to donate to the Philippines Coast Guard this April. Next slide. Okay. So what? Sure, it will come at some point. Okay, I'll move on with the presentation. So what is MDA? MDA refers to effective understanding of anything associated with maritime domain that could impact on the security, safety, economic, or environment of a country. MDA encompasses all activities conducted at sea, including but not limited to shipping, fishing, illegal activities such as piracy, trafficking, and maritime pollution. So maritime domain awareness is to know what is happening around you or in the waters that are in your maritime zones. However, given the extent of the maritime zones, there are many challenges in collecting information relating to MDA. What are the challenges that we face in terms of collecting MDA? It's the vast coverage or area. So the ocean space is extremely large. So there's a vast coverage area. Detection of illicit activity, challenges in detecting sophisticated threats like piracy and trafficking of drugs. Need for real-time data. It's important that a lot of the satellite imagery is after the event. Important to have real-time information. Integration and sharing of information, and the technology and resources limitations relating to MDA. So these are some of the challenges. And in terms of the tools that are used to acquire MDA information, we have the fishing fleets use VMS, Vessel Monitoring System. The larger vessels use AIS, Automatic Information System, and also LRIT, long range identification and tracking systems. In addition, there are new capabilities that have been introduced, such as the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, GMDSS, and the more recently VDES, which is the VHF Data Exchange System. So these are all capabilities that can be acquired to enhance your MDA capability. And these are collected using both terrestrial and orbital systems, such as satellite systems. Next slide. So how can we use unmanned technology or autonomous technology to enhance MDA collection? We have identified two different technologies within the unmanned technology realm that we feel can be used to better collect MDA technology. First is what we refer to as remotely operated technology. And second is autonomous technology. What we refer to as remotely operated technologies is systems that operate without an onboard human crew. These can be remotely operated from a distance or programmed to carry out specific tasks along predetermined routes. Autonomous technology, as we refer to it as, is characterized by the ability to perform tasks and operate independently in real-time human control, equipped with advanced algorithms, artificial intelligence, and machine learning capabilities. Moving on to what these actually mean in terms of activities. I think the previous speaker, Admiral Avai, mentioned buoy-based surveillance capabilities. There are buoys that are placed with surveillance capabilities. We have remote control harbor patrol, uncrewed surface vessels that are operating in Singapore and other places. And we have remote control oil spill response uncrewed surface vessels. Again, these are they carry a boom line, and these are operated using a remote control device. Further on, moving on, there's also a tethered capabilities, remotely operated technologies that are used underwater. These tend to relate to tethered ROVs, or remotely operated vehicles, for salvage operations, tethered ROVs for pipeline inspection, or the inspection of other requirements in the ocean surface. And UNODC itself has developed a capability, a training capability, to use ROVs for hull searching. So we train officers when they're searching a boat, when they do a VBSS operation, a visit boat search and seizure operation, and if they suspect that drugs are tied to the hull of the vessel, they can throw in that tethered ROV, and that will go below the hull with a camera, and they can inspect the hull of the vessel with the ROV. But these are all remotely operated capabilities. In the aviation space, we have seen fixed wing uncrewed aerial vehicles, UAVs, tethered uncrewed vehicles, which are sent up from a ship straight up to about 300 meters to surveillance the area around the vessel. And then we have quadcopters and multi-rotor uncrewed aerial vehicles and tethered radar systems that are also used in the remotely operated realm of technology. Moving on to the more autonomous technologies, it is still a very new technology where algorithms are used for decision-making capability is very limited at this stage, but there are long endurance UAVs that are used by military, of some of the more developed countries. We have autonomous ships that tend to work on long distances, wave gliders that travel over periods of time, and seabed mapping, underwater vessels that go and does underwater hydrographic mapping that tend to operate without a human contact for many hours with some level of decision-making capability. So these are the two areas. We are still in the realm of remotely operated vehicles. We haven't been able to progress to the autonomous vessels which have the AI capability or algorithms that can provide some level of decision-making while it's in operation. How would these technologies integrate in real-world applications? We see around 3 areas of application. One is the autonomous swarm technology. What we would see in the future is unmanned vehicles or unmanned vessels having a swarm capability. So rather than having one crewed vessel patrolling a region, we can have 50 unmanned vessels patrolling that region. We can incorporate AI predictive algorithms to maritime security. So the information that is acquired from these unmanned vehicles can have AI incorporated so that they can take decisions on their own to either further investigate incident or an event or a suspected target and then process that information. Already there is AI that has the capability to acquire satellite imagery without having any human intervention. There is systems where you buy credits from a satellite company, and then you put in the requirements such as the suspicious vessels that you want to look out for. And when such vessels are detected, either using synthetic aperture radar imagery or AIS sensors or through RF detection, the algorithm system will automatically task a satellite to use one of the credits that have been purchased to get an electro-optical image of that vessel. So there is no human intervention. The first time the human intervention will come in is when the electro-optical image would be provided to the human operator. So that kind of capability can be incorporated. The other is the underwater communication capability. Underwater sonar communication capability can also be used to improve on the improved on secure communication capability for vessels operating both on the surface and below the surface. Looking at some of the challenges and ethical considerations, we have highlighted the reliability and durability as one of the concerns. Designing autonomous technologies to withstand harsh marine environments, focusing on robust design and self-diagnostic systems. The second is maintenance and repair. Developing low maintenance systems with remote diagnostic and repair capabilities to overcome logistical challenges in remote areas. These are some of the challenges. Data management and analysis. Implementing efficient data systems of handling, analyzing, and securing the vast data sets collected by autonomous technology. Fourth is the integration of existing systems, ensuring seamless integration of new technologies with existing maritime surveillance systems to enhance operation. And five, cybersecurity. Protecting autonomous technologies from cyber threats to ensure the security of communication links and sensitive data. So these are some of the challenges and ethical considerations. Moving on to the regulatory and ethical considerations. Privacy concerns is one. Establishing guidelines for the responsible use of data collected by autonomous technologies to protect privacy. Legal frameworks for operation. Developing comprehensive international regulations that govern the use of autonomous technologies in international waters. Accountability. Clarifying liability and accountability for incidents involving autonomous technologies to navigate legal and ethical complexities. Ethical use, ensuring the responsible deployment of technologies, particularly in surveillance, to respect human rights and international norms. And public trust and acceptance, fostering transparency and stakeholder engagement to build trust and support for the use of autonomous technologies in maritime surveillance. So these are some of the regulatory and ethical considerations that we think need to be considered as well. Moving back to the story I started off with, the use of an unmanned surface vessel in the Philippines for MDA capability. UNODC will procure a commercial USV, commercial unmanned surface vessel for the Philippines Coast Guard, and we hope that this will be delivered by April 2024, in 2 months' time. This will have, it's a 5-meter USV. It has twin water-cooled gasoline engine, electric-powered loitering engine, and its power supply is solar cell array on the deck, solar charged battery to power the payload of functions. The safety mechanisms on board include the motion sensor and evasion capability, so that if a fisherman or somebody comes and tries to throw a net over it, it can evade because it has a motion sensor and it has an evasion capability. If it overturns, it has a self-righting capability so that it comes back right onto its floating side. And in terms of comms and sensors, it has a VHF link and also a satellite navigational capability. And in terms of sensors, it has AIS receiver, radar, high-resolution camera, and night vision. We haven't incorporated the RF sensor onto this as yet, but at the moment, it's a pilot initiative. And if this pilot initiative is successful, we will then install the RF sensor on this as well. And that completes the RF sensor capability in the Sulu Sea, where the Philippines Coast Guard would have a terrestrial RF sensor on the coastline and unmanned surface vessel patrolling as long as it wants, as long as the power supply has it, with RF sensor that can provide two bearing lines and provide a fix of any RF sensors. So this is the objective, and we feel that we are leading the way in terms of encouraging Coast Guard agencies to adopt new technologies, in particular unmanned surface vessel technology. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Shanaka, for providing us with a very unique perspective surrounding the discussion on mass from the UNODC perspective. Thank you very much. Only two of us are here, and we have almost 50 minutes for Q&A session. So before opening the floor to the question, I might ask you, Shanaka, about one my question that I was surprised that the UNODC had such a high level of technical expertise to deal with the maritime crime prevention. So does UNODC have the specific structure focusing on the modern technologies to cope with the maritime crime prevention? What is the, say, structure, source of expertise in the UNODC to try to cope with the modern technical environment?
Thank you, Admiral Lavai. We have quite a large pool of experts that the UNODC has brought together in terms of innovative technology. One of the areas in terms of law enforcement overall, and in terms of maritime law enforcement that UNODC is attempting to achieve, is to encourage the use of innovative technologies, modern and advanced technologies. So in doing so, we have acquired a pool of experts that help us understand the evolution of technology, and where we can support law enforcement agencies adopt these technologies. We work with law enforcement agencies in piloting proof of concept type initiatives. And if the proof of concept works, then we encourage the law enforcement agency to expand on it and look for sustainability in terms of expanding that area of work. So in terms of RF technology, I just spoke to you about radio frequency detection technology. We have developed our capabilities in that. We have developed our capabilities in underwater drone technology. We have developed our capabilities in unmanned aerial vehicles. I think we have done that very closely with the Japan Coast Guard. Now we are developing our capabilities in terms of unmanned surface vessels. And we are also in discussions with JAXA, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, looking at the possibility to launch a CUBE satellite for the collection of maritime surveillance data. So we are the vanguard in terms of law enforcement technology development for law enforcement agencies.
Thank you, Shanaka, for further exploring the new technologies which UNODC is trying to cope with. I have realized that the understanding and the modern technology is an essential part for coping with the maritime crime prevention. RF detection, swarm, and satellites, they are new topics that we have not very much encountered in the previous discussion in the mass. But from the Coast Guard service points of view, so these are really important viewpoints for the Coast Guard day-to-day services. So the floor is open to questions. I don't see any online questions, so we have the full advantage to make questions from the floor. Anybody? Yes, I see one gentleman in the middle row, please.
Hi, my name's Nick Reynolds and I'm from BBC Monitoring. I can ask a sort of general question of Shanaka. With UNODCs have a very sort of broad remit, which covers, the whole world. What's the challenge in trying to link up what you're doing at sea with what might be happening on land? Because I would imagine that criminal gangs, they move around from one to the other. So how do you ensure that your activities kind of joined up?
That's a very, very good question. The collaboration between land-based agencies and maritime agencies. It's something that we've been working very hard to ensure that land-based organizations coordinate with maritime agencies. Very often, the maritime agencies have the assets, be it autonomous vessels or be it crewed vessels, they have the assets out at sea. The intelligence gathering is done through land-based organizations. They have the intel, they have the class 1 intel. The sharing of that information tends to be limited and sporadic, and this is an area that we have been strengthening. We have been bringing together land-based organizations and maritime organizations to try and develop stronger cooperation. In terms of drug trafficking, if I can give you an example, one of the models used for maritime drug trafficking is called the mother-daughter approach. That is, you have a larger vessel that comes into the high seas, and you have smaller vessels that come and take the payload and go. Now, if you wait to detect that on the coastline, you may get 1/5 of it, because they may have, if you have brought in 1,000 kilos of any substance, they may put 200 kilos into a smaller vessel, and that may dock in one location, another 200 kilos and another 200 kilos. If you're going to do a land-based detection, you might just get the 200 kilos. But you make a maritime seizure, you might get the whole consignment. So it's very important that land-based organizations, land-based law enforcement agencies and maritime agencies such as Coastguards cooperate with each other. And that's something we are dealing with. We have regular engagements in terms of interaction, exchange programs, information sharing programs. So we're doing our best to develop that capability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And any other question? Yes, sir. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Danilo Di Pietro from Frontex. I have actually 2 questions for you, sir. Before we talk about the terminology and standardization, and I'm curious about the definition of your presentation regarding remotely operated technology, autonomous technology, where they come from. And the second one is regarding capacity building. I totally agree with you that integration with existing systems for CoastGuard will be a good challenge for the future, creating this, it's called a MAM team, manned and unmanned teaming of the assets. Question, does your organization organize a workshop or exercise for this kind of activity to, boost some procedures, operator manuals to approach this new technology in carry out CoastGuard functions?
To the first part of the question, remotely operated vehicles and autonomous. The distinction we made there is that at the moment we are dealing very much with remotely operated vehicles, at least in terms of the maritime law enforcement capability at the Coast Guard level. I'm sure at the military spectrum, they may have the autonomous capability. We don't have that. It's not commercially available, and it's not within our reach. So we are dealing with the remotely operated capabilities. So that's the distinction that we've made, but we see much of that technology evolving into an autonomous capability where decision-making will be done by the vessel itself. We are not there yet, at least in the law enforcement realm. We need, in the military realm, I'm sure they are there, but that's not accessible to us. The second question, is there training for this and capacity building? Very important. Yes, there is. For example, wherever we have provided UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, we have established what are called drone schools. The drone schools have simulator consoles where we train operators to use the drones prior to them actually operating the drone in a practical, in a open environment. So we have a capability in many countries where we would establish drone schools with simulator consoles and train the officers to undertake drone training, drone operator training. We'll also train MDA analysts, because it's not about just sending the vehicle up into the sky or sending the vessel out at sea. What's the information you collect from it? How do you make sense of it? So hand in hand with drone operations, we also train maritime domain awareness analysts to understand the pattern of life at sea, to look for anomalies. Why is this vessel here? This has, this is an anomaly, and then further investigate that. Use different sensors to look for non-cooperative vessels that are not transmitting their AIS or VMS. So all that is part of the work that UNODC does.
Thank you. Yes, I also wish to mention that in order not to make a security hole for maritime crime prevention, the regional authorities, the responsible agencies must work together in a unified manner and coordinated manner. And that's what the ODC is taking a very good initiative. And we are very thankful to the UNODC for helping us to coordinate the capacity building effort in the region. Thank you very much. I see one input from the online, so this is not really a question, but a comment. I'll read it through. Comment from Captain Martin from Brazil, very far away. I understand that the initiative of promoting exchange between the Coast Guard agencies will be very important for two main reasons. First, it will allow for standardization and a common understanding. I think this relates to the question that was just answered by Shimaka. So this is the first reason, but I don't see the second reason input on the screen. But anyway, this is a real appreciation from the other side to enhance importance of the cooperation between the Coast Guard agencies for promoting maybe the crime prevention by means of autonomous technologies. Any other comment, questions from the floor? We have plenty of time. Yes, one other gentleman on the second row, please.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I want to thank the Japan Association for inviting us to this seminar, as well to the Nippon Foundation. Indeed, thank you so much for having us here. And a question to Admiral Wade is regarding the reduction of human resources. How can you motivate the youngsters in order to join the Coast Guard? Because to me, after you mentioned the drone that was working a lot of hours, being a drone operator must be quite boring, because I will be in a room like this, and when I went to see, was because I like to be in the open and traveling around. So what are you using for motivation of the young people to become a member of the Coast Guard?
Thank you for the question. It's a very important point. We always need to make our working environment attractive to younger generations to wish for joining the Coast Guard. And it's a big challenge. Not only because the Coast Guard working environment is labor intensive, but also, as you can imagine, we are always apart from the smartphone environment at sea. So this is a realistic problem that we need to improve by means of technologies. And say, this is one thing. So they are not, of course, able to go home every day and join their family. So this is a common thing in the maritime services. But still, we need to do something to reduce this kind of the difficulties that the younger generations do not like very much. So we have done paid every effort to improve. Of course, there is a limitation as to what we can do to change the situation. But you have made a very good point. For instance, traditionally, we used to conceal the operation of the Coast Guard front-line assets. So we are not able to say anything back home, what we are doing, where. But by allowing the crew members to use the smartphones, they have the freedom to access the SNS. So they will exchange the information with their friends on the shore. So this was not a favorable things, but we can't do anything with that. We need to a certain extent, allow for the freedom of such things so that they can feel more freely to work in the maritime services. So this is one of the things. So we always need to have the compromise in between the business, the service needs, and the wish of the younger generations for freedom. But of course, this is a challenge. So we are trying to do everything to recruit as much more service members as possible. I don't know if I answered your question correctly. Thank you.
If I may add, just very often the maritime law enforcement sector or the law enforcement sector in general is male dominated. One of the areas that UNODC is promoting is diversity within the recruitment process. And that could also help in terms of expanding the pool of recruits. So to see more gender diversity in terms of recruitment.
Thank you, Shanaka, for supplementing to what I said. Well, autonomous technology is one of the possible solutions to improve the working environment for young generations. So that by operating the UAV or ships or anything from office or even from home, they have the more time and freedom to stay with the family instead of going to the sea and stay there for weeks. Not all the ships are capable of doing this, but for the coastal ships and for surveillance missions and the oceanography, there are certain service areas where we can improve by means of autonomous technology and make the working environment more attractive. Anyone else from the floor for questions? Is it a bit too early to wrap up or? Yes.
Thank you very much. It's a very impressive presentation. Assume that there will be more autonomous patrol craft or vehicles in the ocean. If a merchant ship passing by is called upon from those vessels or those craft, what could be the protocol? And is there any difference between the manned patrol craft and unmanned patrol craft for merchant ship passing by to respond?
Thank you for this question. Is the point that assumption is that there is a autonomous patrol vessel operated by the Coast Guard, and that encounters a situation where merchant vessel is passing by a unmanned Coast Guard patrol vessel, and what is the Coast Guard is going to do? We do not yet have the autonomous patrol vessel, but let's imagine if we have, that should have the same service capability as the manned patrol craft. So in that case, what is the main difference in between in terms of capability? So if there is anything a manned patrol craft cannot do, so we will not be employing that technology yet. But well, if the merchant vessel is passing by a manned patrol vessel, so we might be able to detect the anomaly from external appearance that this vessel is doing something wrong, or it appears something strange from the Coast Guard point of view. So we need to have the capability of doing so for unmanned patrol craft. Is that the point you are referring to?
Thank you. That is one of the case. A couple of years ago, there was a case that the merchant vessel could not differentiate the patrol boat, its manned patrol boat of the coastal states from piracy, so pirates. So the vessel took action, assuming that approaching vessel was pirate, and then resulted in the criminalization by rejecting Coast Guard patrol vessel. So if there is that is happening, even human is on board. If that is under remote operation or even autonomous, it's gonna be perhaps more difficult for merchant vessel to differentiate whether that is authentic patrol craft under the authority or approaching the vessel for malicious intent. So there has to be crystal clear protocol how the Coast Guard unmanned vessel, either that is autonomous or remote, to approach merchant vessel. That is my point.
Yes, thank you. I think it's not purely a technical problem, but maybe another operational problem. But the Coast Guard vessel, either manned or unmanned, that should be clearly distinguishable from external appearance. And I think there is a rule that the Coast Guard vessels must be clearly identifiable from external painting or something. And then also either it is manned or unmanned should also be identifiable by some means. In that case, the confusion can be avoided. I don't know if there's a question.
I think the objective needs to be first identified. So, for example, the 5-meter USV that UNODC will be procuring for the Philippines Coast Guard, the objective is to collect MDA information, surveillance information. And that has an evasion capability. It won't approach a vessel. It will evade from anything that's approaching. So in the current context of what we have in the current plans, it will not engage with any other vessel. It will evade, move away, run away. That's why it has twin water-cooled engines and the loitering engine, which is solar powered. So it can, if somebody tries to attempt to catch it, it can evade and run away. So at this point in time, I think most Coast Guards are looking at surveillance capability using USVs. So I think that encounter is not going to happen for the moment, but at a future evolution of this, where encounters happen, of course, your question is very valid. How can that be identified? But at the moment, most of the technologies is simply surveillance. So it won't be, there won't be encounters.
Good afternoon. I'm Carlos Rom from IT, and I'm happy to be here with you and to share those information because we know as sometimes we put the hypothesis that the sea has no limit. So anything can happen in the Caribbean, and it has impact whether in Asia, Philippines as well. There's an experience with some unpiloted vehicle. I think there's a pilot program that has been done by the USA and the Caribbean and Haiti in this city of Cap-Haïtien. There was one of unpiloted vehicle. But what happened to it? Some fishermen was in the area and they don't even know what is it, and they remark it, they throw it out of the water. And I'm asking whether you think that
the unpilot vehicle could be self-protect, or if there is a way that if I heard clearly the last word, they can evade from other vessel. That's my question.
It has onboard radar and motion sensors. So it has evasion capability. So if anything comes closer than 300 meters or somewhere, I don't have the exact numbers with me, but from a zone that it feels that it is under threat, it will go in the opposite direction or in a direction that has a clear view. So the engines will start off and then head off in that direction. So unlike the situation in the Caribbean, we know about that. Fishermen cannot throw a net over it and try and catch it. This will evade. It has a diesel engine as an auxiliary capability to exceed the speed that it needs to evade that evade any other vessel. So that's one of the features in the current vessel.
That call for a second part of the question. As we know, the criminals, because we are talking about crime, they don't remain silent when the technology advances. So whether they would also develop technology to fight against our technology, what would we do?
I think I alluded to the swarm technology. That is, it's not about having one USV in the water. It's about having 50, 100 USVs in the water. That is the capability that we need to look forward to. We need to be able to swarm the oceans with USVs for law enforcement purposes. Yes, the criminal elements, the criminal networks will counter with some type of technology, but there should be a significant critical mass available to collect information to protect whatever that is there and have a better understanding of what's happening in the oceans. So the whole idea is not to just have one USV or two USVs, it's to have 50 or 100 USVs patrolling the whole seas at any given time, 24/7, as long as it has solar power batteries permitted to. That's the whole idea. So swarm technology, we need to get to the level of having swarm technology in the oceans, but noting that there has to be safety of collisions, that these autonomous vessels have the capability to avoid other vessels, to ensure that there is safety of other seagoing vessels, so that the swarm technology doesn't overlap the safety concerns.
Thank you, Chanaka. On the screen, I have just received a second reason attached to the previous comment from Brazil, which goes, if I may read it. The second reason is because of the referred exchange will allow the maritime authority of many countries to note importance of these new technologies and how it can be used to prioritize their service of combating crimes and prioritize the safety of navigation as well as pollution prevention and protecting human life at sea. So this concludes the comments provided from Brazil. Any comment to what was?
No particular comment as such, but I think prioritizing countering crime is an important area. Yeah. Of course, technology will be used both for law enforcement, countering crime, and also defense purposes. These technologies will be used for countering crime, and I think what the Brazilian participant is saying is to prioritize countering crime and law enforcement. Of course, these will also have defense capabilities, so that's something that we also have to keep in mind, but definitely prioritizing law enforcement would be great.
Thank you for the comment. And thank you. Yes, Nakamura-san, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Nakamura. So I'm originally to the master of the NYK line. So it is very your presentation, Mr. Shankar. Thank you very much. Very good and very impressive your presentation. So because we are also one of the developers of the autonomous vessels. So in your technology, it's very exciting, and so we'd like to know very well. But so this question is so as a merchant vessels master, so I would like to ask you. So when I bought it time, so I have the boarded to the big bulk carrier, so like more than 300 meter, or big size container vessel, so more than the 400 meter, the LOA. So at this time, so vessels maneuverability is very important. So in case, so we are finding to the small tugboat, small fishing boat, its maneuverability is a very big difference. So we do like to avoid that fishing boat, but so that fishing boat is not consideration to the any collision avoidance due to the difference of the maneuverability. So in case, so you USV, so you put in the 5 meters, like that small USV coming to the approaching to the my vessels, so my big vessels. So maybe so I would like to avoid that in early stage. So in case, so your side is how to consideration to the for avoiding to the that maneuverability. Maybe so it's your USB is a very good maneuverability. If maybe less than 10 meter or like that, maybe they can avoid. But for our side, so we are feeling it's very dangerous for the collision. So this is so how to consideration to that, especially in the for the remote side, maybe so some remote operation control person so consider to the this matter is so very happy to us. Then and also if autonomous situation, maybe so some algorithm need to consideration to like that also we are very happy. Yeah, because so in the future, if we find that situation, how to do it. So thank you very much.
I think it's a good, very important question. I alluded to the need for safety. And at the moment, we're talking of a 5-meter vessel, 15 feet long. That's it. So it's a tiny vessel, and maneuverability is very agile. I think when we start looking at bigger vessels, I think there was a gentleman in the panel yesterday who said they were looking at a 100-meter autonomous vessel. I think that's where major safety issues and collision avoidance capabilities need to be incorporated. What we are talking is simply surveillance capabilities. It's like having a buoy out at sea, but this is something that can move around with the same payload. It's not going to collide with a larger vessel. It will avoid any kind of projectile or any kind of vessel that is out there. I think your question would be more relevant when the vessels start to become bigger. At the moment, we don't have that capability, but I'm sure that gentleman who was here yesterday, maybe that question would be better posed to him, because I think they are looking at a 100-meter vessel. Definitely safety would be of paramount importance in that scenario, but not in what we are trying to do with a 5-meter device.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, in case so I hope so if you next development are like that. So if in case so maybe so you have the any radar or some the camera vision, so they can find to that size of the vessel or like that. So then changing to the any collision avoidance algorithm or something in early stage. We are not it, so very happy for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I have a few questions online, so as we have a bit more time, I'll try to pick up as many online questions as possible. One is here from Tokyo. I think he's one of my colleagues back in Tokyo, which goes, what is this? No, it's been deleted while I was reading it. I'm sorry. Which one is? Here's one question to Shanaka. I'll read it through for you. Shanaka, I have spoken internationally on application of USVs to maritime SAR, Coast Guard rules, including SAR, MDA, and the related rules. Is it really a question or comment?
I have spoken internationally on applications of USB. Not, yeah. I mean, search and rescue is a role for Coast Guard agencies. And but at the moment, we haven't focused on using USVs for search and rescue capabilities, except for the search purposes. I'm sure wherever there is the use of sensors to search, that may have some applicability. But beyond that, it's simply a MDA tool at the moment. It's MDA, enhancing MDA capability, not SAR at the moment.
Thank you. Another question I missed is now here. It goes, do you think the Coast Guard authorities should have an enhanced own research institute to develop autonomous technologies that specialize in law enforcement? It's a question. And from my point of view, the answer is simply yes. I perfectly agree. We still have more time. And one other question here online is there any intention of an exchange program between maritime authorities planned by Japan, England, or any other participant country? I think it's related to autonomous technologies. I don't know if I had the correct answer, but for MAS, international discussions taking place, as everybody knows. And all the countries referred to here, England, Japan, and many other countries are seriously involved in the discussion. I don't know if it's a good answer to what was sent to us online. Any other question from the floor? If we may give the floor to the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very future-oriented discussion from technology to humans. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm very sorry for the inconvenience in your presentation. So now it's time to conclude today's seminar. Yep. So I invite Mr. Suzuki Akifumi for closing remarks. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Well done, everyone. I am Suzuki, the president of the Japan Association of Marine Safety. The second international seminar organized by our London Research Office over 2 days from yesterday will soon come to an end. First, I would like to thank the Nippon Foundation for its generous support in organizing this seminar. Thanks to your support, the seminar was a great success. This year, at the seminar, there were about 410 participants from about 50 countries, including the ones online, far exceeding the number of participants last year. Thank you very much. I would like to also express our deepest gratitude to the 16 participants from industry, academia, and the government who are active in various fields related to mass and maritime security operations, and who presented the latest information in their areas of expertise and their thoughts based on their high level of insight and wealth of experience. I believe that the seminar was very meaningful, not only for those who participated in person in London, but also for those who attended via a web from all over the world. I would also like to thank the many people involved in organizing the seminar and preparing the venue. Following the success of the first seminar last year, this year's seminar focused in particular on unmanned vessels with the aim of discussing how Coast Guard agencies can prepare for and respond to and contribute to society in the future. At the 107th session of the Maritime Safety Committee, MSC 107 of the IMO in 2023, it was confirmed that the mandatory codes of MAS are set to enter into force in 2028, and there are great expectations from various stakeholders, such as further improving maritime safety, improving working environments on board ships, and increasing industrial competitiveness and productivity internationally. In terms of the impact on Coast Guard operations, as Mr. Kida of the Nippon Foundation discussed at the opening yesterday, MAS are expected to make a significant contribution in the future. On the other hand, until now, the vessels that have been the target of Coast Guard operations have been those operated by the crew on board. The emergence of MAS is expected to have a significant impact on the practitioners who carry out Coast Guard duties in the field. It is therefore very important to identify possible issues and discuss them thoroughly. In this seminar, the participants discussed the various issues that are expected to arise with the emergence of MAS, including navigation safety, search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, and utilization by maritime security agencies. The introduction of new technology inevitably brings with it new challenges. JAMS will continue to contribute to the improvement of maritime safety by responding flexibly and appropriately to the introduction of new technologies, including MAS, and the challenges that accompany them. We hope to hold this seminar again next year, as we did this time, and sincerely hope to see you all again in a year's time. With this, I would like to bring to a close the JAMS second seminar. Thank you very much.